Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm also the birthday boy today, and I am too old to be mentioned. Anyway, it's March 6th, 2025, and it's time to do our regular weekly reviews and comics discussion with my co-hosts, John Norris and Chris Hall.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Now, John wanted to do something for me, so
Yes.
the floor is yours, sir.
So this is for the birthday boy. Happy birthday to
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday to
dear Louis.
us. Happy birthday
Birthday to you. And many more.
Happy birthday, man.
Okay.
26 years old.
There you go.
That's what I am. Yes, half my age, right? All right. I think he's going to go ahead and turn on his other microphone and turn some other things off and do in the meantime. Yep,
Hold on.
not a problem.
Fantastic job, John.
Yep. Now he's just got to turn the sound on the other one.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, it's something else. Okay, let's see what we got going on this crazy day. We know that we have lots to review. Including all this stuff and much more. So let's go ahead and get started with you, John.
Wow. Okay. Disney Villains, Maleficent numbers 1 through 5. A 5-issue miniseries. Publisher Dynamite Entertainment. Written and illustrated by Sue Lee. Letters by Jeff Eckelberry. The main cover by Jay Lee and June Chung. Editor Nate Cosby. Genre is fantasy. Rating is teen/teen plus, released May through October 2023. So what it's about. Disney and Dynamite proudly present Maleficent, Queen of the Forbidden Mountain. Her realm is shrouded in darkness and evil and full of all things that go bump in the night. Her soul is cold, hardened by a lifetime of small-minded wanderers seeking to steal her powers to satisfy their mortal greed. Her patience wears thin. Her mystical might grows. It is a matter only of time before she descends the mountain and unleashes her horrible magics, that's their spelling, not mine, upon the powerless people below. A stunning vision of villainy from writer and artist Sue Lee. So Sleeping Beauty was released in 1959, and it's a legendary production in Disney history because it was almost a decade in development. It was one of Disney's most ambitious and expensive films, costing a then astronomical $6 million, but a not so
astronomical $65.5 million in today's. It's kind of like, go ahead.
And, though it didn't recoup its money on its initial release, it is now considered one of the highest grossing films of 1959, thanks to its various re-releases throughout the years.
$681 million adjusted for the current dollar. I guess Aurora woke up late to the party.
I guess so. So it is considered a genuine Disney classic, and of course, it also introduced Maleficent, one of Disney's most iconic villains. And while she had a genuine affection for her pet raven Diablo, and yes, that is its name, she wasn't portrayed as good or misunderstood. She was simply, in her own words, the mistress of all evil. 2014's Maleficent with Angelina Jolie attempted to humanize her and give her a backstory. So in this series, she's presented as the classic version with a bit of the new mixed in. For example, in the first issue, she shows genuine empathy for a young boy who has wandered into her domain and even offers a gift of a compass, something the classic Maleficent might not have done, but that Jolie's version might have. But when he repays her kindness by attempting to steal her staff, things, well, don't go so well. Lee does a nice job with the artwork, making it appropriately moody and atmospheric. The storyline is simple, and she even pauses to give Diablo his own adventure in the nearly wordless third issue. Now, yeah, you could argue that that wasn't necessary and that the entire story could have been told in 4 issues instead of 5. But I liked seeing Diablo get some action of his own. Now, what I'm not crazy about is just like they did back in the Scar miniseries, they use the transparent word balloons again, which I'm not a fan of. But the biggest disappointment, when I say biggest disappointment, I mean, I was like, this is one of the reasons I was looking forward to reading this series. So the climax in Sleeping Beauty is one of the greatest action sequences ever in a Disney animated film, as far as I'm concerned. And like when Maleficent transforms into her dragon form, it is like the coolest thing. So I really wanted to see her dragon form here. Instead, she transforms into a giant snake, which, while visually cool, made me go, what? Why? I do know that the original animators used rattlesnakes for reference when they animated the dragon's head striking, but come on. Having no dragon except on a few variant covers is a big missed opportunity for me.
And I'd say that's a spectacularly dynamite failure on their part. John gives it 3.5 stars. I don't think you didn't read it yet, Chris, did you?
I did not read it.
Okay, so neither one of us read it, but I'm going to give you what I think anyway. There are nice covers that were presented here, but Dynamite should probably be thankful I didn't have time to read this book to comment, because not having the dragon form is a fatal flaw in my opinion, and would have killed the book's rating as surely as Prince Philip's enchanted sword kills her in the animated film. And anybody who says the issue dedicated to Diablo is a waste of time is going to feel the fury of my fist of feathers.
I thought you would like that.
So yes, I'm going to say it was
so
necessary.
Can I assume this would have got a better score if the dragon was in it?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure it would have. Unless they like completely botched drawing the dragon, which who knows, maybe that's why they didn't draw it.
Well, it's.
But the thing is, the artist does a decent enough job on everything else. I can't see why she would have had a trouble drawing it. So,
right.
But here's some of the art.
Yeah, that's really nice artwork. So,
Yep.
I love the panel on the left with the boy's expression, and the boy's name is Reynard. I forgot to mention, but I'm like that. That's a beautiful panel, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, very nice.
And then this is later when she transforms into the snake versus whoever this is that's turned into a stag.
I was gonna say, is that Bambi's father?
No,
More like Bambi's mother transformed with her own staff or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting to look at anyway.
Huh. Yeah, that's very cool.
Okay. Slightly exaggerated. Paperback, 1999. Writer Curtis Clow, artist P.S. Bach, or Pius Bach, I don't know. Colorist Roman Titov and Ava de la Cruz, letterer Tobin Rossio. Genre is, cover artist is P.S. Bach again. Genre is fantasy, publication date December 3rd, 2024. That is the collection edition. It did come out in single before that. Range for age is 16 plus. What is it about? Mia, a dying treasure hunting girl, must steal back a sacred artifact from a crazed cult leader to restore order before her sickness overcomes her in a whimsical fantasy world where religion is law. An action-packed story set in a land where sky whales and airships populate the horizon, following the story of Mia and her companion Winston, who are caught up in a scheme way beyond their comprehension. Mia's treasure-finding talents have them dragged into peril as separate factions wage war with each other in order to obtain these three sacred relics capable of granting a person the power of a god and immortality. With just weeks left to live herself, Mia is prepared to sacrifice everything to save her friend. And in the process, she wants to leave behind a proper legacy and be remembered for doing the right thing. What do I think of this? At the core of the story is the theme of if a person died today, who would remember them tomorrow and why would they be remembered? It is executed exceptionally well, especially given the confines of such a fantasy setup such as this. World where religion is law, it's challenging the reader to see the contrast which is separating Mia from everybody else in the story. She just wants to be remembered when she's gone, whether recognition from the masses as a hero or merely just the bonds to those that she meets and makes friendships with along the way. Now, nobody ever wants to be forgotten. And that's what makes this story resonate with the reader. Cloud really makes an effort to present a solid examination of what it means to leave behind a legacy. And he does a really good job of making the reader care about what these characters are attempting to do and why. Artist P.S. Bach is the Lithuanian brand of Mobius and Miyazaki. That's Hayao Miyazaki of Howl's Moving Castles, him, right?
yes.
Okay.
Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, Studio Ghibli and Hall. My brain was just having a lapse for a second there. As you can see from the cover, there's brilliant, dazzling colors. It has elements of akin to Miyazaki's Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, while also taking influences from Mobius's The Incal and Azeroth. As Miyazaki was himself influenced by Mobius, it seems like Bach is trying to encapsulate the strengths of both artists while trying to find his own uniqueness. I'm not sure he carries it off in his work, but I can't say he doesn't go all out trying, and the results are certainly worth looking at. The story itself is both coming of age or coming to terms with yourself and figuring out who or what you want to be, and in Mia's case, how she wants to be remembered. But a story of also of redemption and selflessness as she accepts her fate and her friends Winston the Brave, a really clever sidekick comedy relief character who actually has to evolve into his own character as well as the story progresses, and Lacey. While I would not say Cloud's writing is on par with Miyazaki or Jodorowsky, who was Mobius's collaborator on The Incal, I do think he does capture the same kind of spirit in his work. And when you're seemingly aiming to do something as highbrow and as influential in your own right as what those guys are doing, even if you don't hit their level, you're going to probably find yourself doing something that's worthy of its own merits, and that is what this creative team achieved. And I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Chris, did you get a chance to look at this at all?
I could not find this, but looking at the cover, even before you said anything, my first thought was Mobius. 100% Mobius.
Well, here's some of the interior work. And she's climbing kind of like Lara Croft, up this giant statue.
Yeah, she's Lara Crofting it.
Yep. And in the backpack is little Winston. You can see his little guy over here.
Yeah.
And then you see the gun shooting and everything. It's like the Incal being shot at, the guy from the Incal being shot at and flying and jumping all over the place. It just looks so much like that in its own way.
Yeah, this is incredibly cool.
Yeah. And they're shooting at her, and she throws like a sort of a grappling hook, but not really, at the flying stingray who carries her away. And then she rides the stingray off into the sky. It's a pretty cool looking overall book. As the story progresses, her illness causes her to actually get like stoned, scaly formations, and her body starts to lock up and have stuff like that. And when she's gone, she's pretty much like a statue type stuff. So it's really interesting how they do that. Let's see if there isn't any more artwork. Okay. So our next book is Ghost Band. Paperback 1995 from publisher Polite Strangers LLC. I got this through crowdfunding. Writer is our good friend Jason McNamara, who's been on the show several times before. Artist, the original artist was Vincent Gladnick, pages 1 through 65 on the cover. And now for the list of characters and assistant. John Hebeck did 87 and 92 to 94. Justin Gruber did page 71 to 75 and 83 to 86. Rashawn Ekadal did 67 and page 66 and 67, 76 and 77 and 98 and 99. Tony Talbert did pages 102 and 103 and 105 and 106. Paige Braddock did pages 90 and 91. Matt Harding did pages 95 and 96. Peter Sakosh did 87 and 99. 92 and 94, 102 and 103 and 105 and 106. Nicole Segal did pages 78 to 80, 97, 100 and 101 and 104. Colorist Vincent Gladnick and Paul Little. Story editor Joel Enos. Genre post-apocalyptic science fiction and coming of age. Published late 2023, early 24 by Kickstarter for mature readers. What is it about? In current day or near future time, Silicon Valley has done the unthinkable, and a technological plague eradicates mankind, killing nearly everyone on Earth. A handful of survivors survive in the San Francisco Bay Area, believing it to be a safe haven, only to learn that they too are going to be wiped out in less than 24 hours. So what do the survivors do for the last 24 hours? For one group of them, they start a band and perform a farewell concert. How the hell they're going to start a band, make a playlist, get it memorized, be able to perform it in less than 24 hours? I have no idea. But this is going to be something to see, right? And what happens when a group of nihilistic programmers have their own deadly agendas and are seeking to expedite the apocalypse? It's the last day of human existence. Let's start a band.
Why the hell not?
This is a hell of a concept that McNamara came up with. The idea of forming a band and giving a concert in only 24 hours, no matter the provocation, is absolutely nuts. As a former musician, I found myself really struggling to dispel my disbelief just because of the nature of forming a band and learning each other's skills and finding the right connection between members before you really find your sound and all the things that go with making a band. And John knows what I'm talking about as well.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if y'all know this, but but in theater, there's a thing that some theaters do called the 24-hour musical. I've not done one myself, but it's where, you know, they decide on a musical, and then they like they and then they stage it and perform it at the end of a 24-hour period. And
Okay.
I've never done it one myself, but I know people who have.
Okay.
That's
Well,
pretty cool.
Yeah. So, you know, that isn't really what the story is about, as the cast doesn't have that kind of time. It's more just about trying to find some way to say that last thing, express what you need to get before you're gone. And I got that from the book, obviously. But there's also a sense of wanting to be remembered. See that common thing from what we just reviewed from Slightly Exaggerated. After you're gone, although in this case, since everyone's going to supposedly die from the plague anyway, you're screaming into the void of nothing. Is it worth the fight, trying to remember who and what you loved, trying to leave behind something for others to find, if there is ever anybody else to find it? I think McNamara does tackle that concept and makes you think about it, but because of the way the art is, it might distract you from the story a little bit. For whatever reasons, Vincent Gladnick couldn't complete the project by himself. I know that Jason went on record about it on other podcasts in the past. I don't want to get into that here because it's long past the time to discuss it, and I don't want to cause any misunderstandings or misconceptions of what went down and why, speculating based on what I heard. And with all respect, it would be speculation because all I've heard is Jason's side. And as much as I respect Jason, I would be remiss in my responsibilities as a journalist and as a reviewer not to get Vincent's side of the equation as well. So instead, what we get is a really interesting mix of artists who pitched in and contributed to the book, heavily to the back end of the book. And I think that forced Jason to change the way he planned the book to be, and where some of the focus of the things might have gone had there been a single visual art design throughout the book. But I think because there are so many different artists, it actually creates a different identity for the book as it reinforces the whole idea of trying to have all these different tastes and skill sets, kind of like forming a rock band overnight. And this, in some ways, benefits the story because it gives the story a level of subtextual elements that Gladnick by himself would not have been able to produce. So insofar as whether or not you're going to like the variety of styles and how they do or don't mesh, that's more of a personal experience for the individual reader, I think. I don't know if it's something he aimed for. I don't think it was. I don't think I ever heard him mention it, that he was trying that. But if you read this with the idea that each artist is akin to a new musician adding their track to an overall master edition, and then try to appreciate each artist's contribution singularly and then as the whole, as the composition, I think you'll find a greater appreciation for the whole of the book. I give it 3.5 stars. I know neither one of you guys got this because it was a Kickstarter and it's not findable online too easily. But let's take a quick look. This is Vincent's work. It's very nice for what it is.
Yeah. And I do have to say, with other comics that I've read where there's different artists telling one story, I find it very jarring. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. It's just, it kind of takes you out of the story.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You really have to, that's what I'm saying. This one, you have to kind of look at it that way.
Right.
But as you can see, completely different art styles for some of the other artists. The page on the left is Rashawn Edekal, and the page on the right is John Hebig and Peter Sakosh. But you can tell it's the same people.
Right. Right.
So it's quite interesting to see those changes.
Yeah, the same character models by different artists.
Yeah. So it's quite cool in that regard. Like I said, it would be interesting to see what you would think about this, Chris, if I could get a copy of it in PDF from Jason or something, but I'll talk to him about it in the future and see if you're
Okay.
interested.
Very cool.
All right. Our next book is Night Eaters, Volume 1, She Eats the Night, $14.99, from publisher Abram Comics Arts. This is the trade paperback volume by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, lettering by Chris Dickey, editor Charlotte Greenbaum, genre dark fantasy horror, age rating teen plus, originally released October 11th, 2022. Apparently, the edition I have is a special Diamond Previews trade paperback, and the regular series is hardcover, and there are 3 books out, 3 volumes. I've only got the first one so far. But let's, this is what the first hardcover looks like. The volume looks, I tend to like the hardcover cover better. It's $24.99 for the hardcover. What is it about? Chinese American twins Millie and Billy are having a tough time. On top of the multiple failures in their personal and professional lives, are struggling to keep their restaurant afloat. Luckily, their parents, Ipo and Keon, are in town for their annual visit. Having immigrated from Hong Kong before the twins were born, Ipo and Keon have supported their children through thick and thin and are ready to lend a hand, but they're starting to wonder, has their support made Millie and Billy incapable of standing on their own? When Ipo forces them to help her clean up the house next door, a hellish and run-down ruin that was the scene of a grisly murder, the twins are in for a nasty surprise. A night of terror, gore, and supernatural mayhem reveals that there is much more to Ipo and her children than meets the eye. Drawing from traditional folklore and presenting it in a modern spin that blends the best of the horror films, American and Japanese, with comedic and suspenseful flair. That's what you got with this, and it's really good. Leo and Takeda, the already proven top award level creative team of the series Monstrous from Image, apparently got slightly bored kicking ass over there and decided to start up a new gig. While that series also has themes of Asian folklore and horror, it's very steeped in the mythical fantasy realm. This series takes place in a more modern day real world setting. Liu is really stepping up to the plate and trying to match Junji Ito's best stuff like Uzumaki in this series. And while I think it's a bit too soon, just reading the first volume, to gauge whether she's going to match that brilliance, she's certainly off to a fine start. Takeda's art here is more traditional to a certain Asian stylization than the stuff I remember seeing in Monstrous. I haven't looked at Monstrous for a while. It's a good series. I just kind of lost interest about 3 years in. That kind of happens. This ongoing series that go on. It's like, get to the end, please. That's kind of my thing on that. But it has nothing to do with them. They are still doing good work. I did find the color palette a little bit too dark for my taste, but not inappropriate to the tone and artistic sensibilities and service of the story. Sometimes I really would like to see Takeda's work in just black and white line art to see some of the process that she does when she makes choices with her color work. I'm just interested in that process more than anything else. I don't know if this series is going to live up to the level of success that Monstrous has seemed to have had over the years. But if you are a fan of books like Junji Ito's manga works, or if you're a B-horror movie buff like Chris is, this is certainly a series worthy of your time. I give this one 4 stars. Let's take a quick look at some of the art. What do you think of that, Chris?
I am digging the color schemes. The art seems kind of, I don't know, just very sketchy to me. Like, and not sketchy as in like not good, like sketchy.
Rough. Just really rough looking.
Yeah, it's a very sketchy style. So
yeah.
And it almost comes off like some of those like the giant murals you see in like Japanese murals on the wall. Like it kind of comes off like that.
Here's some more pages from that. A little more clean here, as you can see.
Yeah, it seems to like
but when they're in the thick of it and they're starting to fight stuff, like like here's early again, relatively clean, crisp line art.
How's the monster work? Or
Well,
the ghost work, or demons, or whatever they're fighting?
a lot of it is actually very like you can barely see it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's meant to be barely seen, and then you see like it reached out, the shadows are out of the mirror to grab them.
Okay, I like that.
There's one in here. I gotta find it. If I can find the page, it's hilarious. I wish I. Okay, here we are.
Ooh, that's nice.
All right.
That's very cool.
It's Sarlacc Satan.
And this is based off of actual Japanese mythology, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And
So-
they always have crazy stuff. There's always like ghosts that are like, eyeballs coming out of a toilet, or something like that. Like they're always crazy with their monster folklore.
Yeah. So, really good stuff there. Like I said, 4 out of 5. I'm probably going to end up getting the hardcover edition just because I love that cover, and get the other 2 volumes in the hardcover eventually too to read. Okay. John, I guess it's your turn again.
Okay, Power Lords number 2, publisher Oni Press, writer Matt Hodson, artists V. Ken Marion, Austin Beckley, and Matthew Seaborn. Colorist is Andrew Dahlhaus. Lettering that Taylor Esposito, Ghost Glyph Studios. Covers by Dustin Weaver, which is what you're looking at. Salvador LaRocca, Francis Portela, and Juan Gedeon. Editor Carl Bollers, designer Winston Gambro. Genre sci-fi action adventure. Released February 26th, 2025. So what it's about. The Legend of the Power Lords continues. Writer Matt Hodson of Power Rangers The Return and blockbuster artist V. Ken Marion of Green Lanterns take you on an unforgettable ride across the cosmos featuring the beloved 80s toy icons. As smugglers, Adam and Lipa decide what to do with the newly acquired power jewel, they find themselves in a tug of war between the forces of good, the Power Lords, and those of evil, Arcus extraterrestrial agents. But will the lure of the jewel's power ultimately cause the best friends to turn on each other? So what I thought, and again, like I said in the first issue, I never did have the toys when they originally came out in the 80s. So I came to this series kind of fresh. And in my review of the first issue, I said that it felt like there was a lot of setup and we were waiting for the payoff. And on one hand, I feel that this issue is more of the same. And it's got an action-packed story that moves along at a swift pace with no filler. The artwork is quite serviceable, and I, for one, didn't notice a big difference between the 3 inkers that were listed. On the other hand, there is some character interplay here that I feel wasn't in the first issue, and it makes things more interesting. In particular, the exchanges between Adam, Lipa, and Back Attack, and between Adam and Shea. And there seems to be a sense of betrayal on all sides, which helps up the ante a little bit.
Ante in terms of suspense and what's going to happen.
Yes.
Okay. As John points out, there is a lot of action in this issue, but it's also set up because we're now being sort of introduced to all of Adam's friends as a force, which we didn't have really in the first issue. And there's really too much going on to really get who's who in their relationships to one another amidst the battle scene. One character, Savor, I don't remember from the original toy line. The character existed, I just didn't see it. And when I saw the A cover, which was the first cover you guys saw, I said to myself, I'm Adam, Prince of Eternia, and whoops, wrong toy line. I'm Savor, Prince of Wherever and member of the Power Lords. Secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword, and Arcus snatched it from my hand and said, by the power of redundancy, you are now a tank. And he chopped off my legs and stuck me under this tank tread. He killed my kitty friend, too. I don't even get to keep my real name.
You know, I was this close to taking a swig of water before you said that, and I'm really glad I didn't now.
Spit take.
Anyway, come on, who ripped off who here? But I digress. This is the Francis Portela cover. This is what I was also thinking. Me tank. Me tank.
That's funny.
That's the actual toys right there from the 80s. So you can kind of tell what my mindset was when I was writing this review. The story's fine. There's nothing too special, but nothing to really shock you either. It seems like this being a 3-issue miniseries, the story might get a little truncated next issue. We'll have to wait and see. I do wish they do a better job of marketing this series, though. I realized that they did hire Wayne Barlow to do a variant cover for issue 1. Barlow is the guy who designed all the characters, if not most, if not all the characters, from the back in the 80s for the toys, and is best known for Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. But I somehow feel like it's not quite right. You know, maybe it's that 10, 11-year-old in me that's wanting the original stuff somehow, even though Power Lords came out just as I was leaving and getting out of toys as a toy person. I don't know. Someone emailed me and asked me if this is a kind of series I would like to write or draw. Kinda. I don't know. Maybe. I think that Ken Marion's doing a remarkably reasonable job for a rather obscure brand of toys. Don't you guys?
Yes.
I knew nothing about these toys. Nothing. So
yeah. So I mean, I think it's like, I think they're doing a good enough job. I don't think I would feel like I could do a better job than they're doing. As far as inking differences, yes, I do see where the other two inkers were trying to match what he was doing, but I do see quite the differences between them. But then I'm an inker and an editor, and John is an untrained eye, so it's not like. But basically, the other two inkers have a heavier line weight than Ken does. I give it 3.5. You gave it 3.5. So pretty good overall. And
I did get to read this.
You did?
Yes, I found it. Yes,
Oh.
I read.
Okay.
I read all 3 issues.
All 2 issues. Are you sure you didn't read the one from the 80s then? Because this is only 2 issues out so far.
There may be. I read an old one.
Yeah, are you sure you didn't read the one from the 80s?
Is that the one where he loses the gem and then goes and forms a team and to get the gem back?
I don't know because I've never read the 80s one. Let me quickly here. I mean, did the covers look familiar to you?
Yeah.
Huh. Because Power Lord 3 isn't supposed to come out for another 3 weeks. Interesting. Okay. Well, go ahead and tell us what you think anyway.
Did we lose audio?
Yeah.
All right.
There?
Yeah.
Joey Joe is in the house. He says Power Lords is a good read so far. He didn't realize it was based off a toy line either.
This says Power Lords 2025, so
Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Oh,
All right.
it is just the first 2 issues. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So you have read the first 2 issues. Go ahead and tell us what you
Yeah,
think.
so I did enjoy this. I like you, I I found it kind of bizarre that and humorous that the He-Man looking character wasn't the main character. He's relegated as a secondary character. Um, and I also found it interesting that the design is kind of like what a kid would do, like rip off the torso of one character and glue it on a tank. That's absolutely something a kid would do. So I think that design's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The story was good, compelling. The art was decent. I mean, it was really nice. The coloring, everything was really good. So I did enjoy this.
And you would give it?
I would give it a solid 3.5.
So we're all in agreement. 3.5. Good.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Now let's look at some of that artwork from issue number 2. This is the stuff that was inked by Marion. Okay. And there's a certain thinness to the line weight. Let me see if I can get it to zoom in a little bit. Can you see some of that line weight over here? That's really kind of thin and sharp
Yep.
on the edges. Okay. Now I'm gonna draw it back a little bit more. Now this is the Austin Beckley stuff. You see how much cleaner it is? It's not as rough. It doesn't have. Now, granted, a lot of figures are smaller, so you don't have the same kind of texture.
Right.
At the same time, it's like there's just not the same kind of figure work on the faces and stuff that was there on Marion's exactly. It still looks good though. It's just more open, I think, than
it's more open. It's more almost like, I don't know, Joe Madureira style.
yeah. Comparison to Marion by himself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go ahead and take the look at Seaborn's inks. And you can see it's much heavier on the outlines of the figures. And the shadows and the blacks are much heavier than the other 2. It still looks good, but there's certainly distinctly different inking styles. But I did like the artist overall.
Yeah,
Just,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so okay. Joey Joe says Power Lords has been cool, and that he's been enjoying all of them as Cellverse comics. Yeah, generally, I don't think any of us have a problem with what they've been doing within the Cellverse. We've reviewed all of them except for Sectors, and that's because John missed that one somehow. Did you ever get those, John?
Not yet.
Okay. But yeah, they've been pretty solid stuff.
I also found it interesting that they almost turned Lord Power into like almost a villain, like. So I thought that was an interesting little twist there.
Yep. Okay, Chris, you get to read one now.
Alrighty. Primer, Clashing Colors, #1, published by
1
DC
through 3.
Comics.
It's covered. It's 1 through 3. It's covered up.
Oh, 1 through 3. Okay, sorry. Publishers DC Comics. That is $4.99. Writers Jennifer Muro, Thomas Kojewski, artist Greta Lusky, #1, and Nicoletta Baldari, 2 through 3. Lettering is Wes Abbott. Editors is Jim Chadwick, Courtney Jordan. Ages, rating, all ages. This was released September through November 2024. What it's about. 13-year-old Ashley Rayburn is an upbeat girl, and in her highly anticipated second book, Ashley must navigate the challenges of popularity, parental expectations, and boring homework assignments that young readers are familiar with. all while testing the limitations of her powers. In the second volume of DC's middle-grade primer series, Ashley wants nothing more than to be taken seriously as a superhero. She can't help it that things don't always go as planned. And when the Teen Titans rolled around chasing after their infamous nemesis, Deathstroke, Ashley just knows this is her chance to prove that Primer has what it takes to join the team. The only thing is, her parents still expect her to go to school and finish her homework. Typical dad and Yuka, mom stuff. And her best friend Luke keeps acting weird every time her Titan dream gets brought up. But Ashley has it all figured out. If only they would just see that she can do this, will Ashley learn what it means to be both a team player and a trustworthy friend, all while battling her newest foe.
What did I think? This really is one of DC's best new characters. The character is basically a female composite of Kim Possible in the early teen 60s era of Peter Parker. And I mean Peter Parker, not Spider-Man. With universal themes that young readers should relate to. Living with parental expectations, trying to fit in with the right friends while still being able to stand on your own. Trying to navigate and figure out what you want to be and how to get there in general. Extremely well written by two very strong animation writers who certainly know what they're doing and why they're doing it. The only real weakness I found in this was the original artist Gretel Luxie departing mid-story. Not that Nicola Bedardi does a poor job, far from it. She keeps the story moving and has a pretty good handle on emulating Luskie's style while bringing her own style to the mix. I had nothing wrong with her involvement. It's just said that Luskie couldn't complete the project solo for whatever reasons. And this is why, as an editor, I prefer for my projects to be solicited after completion. That's just me.
Right.
Anyway, writing is solid. Feels like the same kind of humor that you get from TV shows like Kim Possible, Danny Phantom, and The Fairly Odd Parents. Art's very good. Has both the animation and children's book type of art style, which I know annoys certain elements of the so-called fandom. So sorry that it isn't 1970s, 80s Marvel style or 90s image crap art styles. Mr. 50 Flake, you know who you are. And I feel like it has a really good story and message for the audience that it is intended for. I give it 4 out of 5. Chris, you read it. You gave it 4 out of 5.
Yes.
I really do like the character's costume design. It's just like, this she didn't have this in the first book. They didn't give this is something that she just came up with in this episode or this storyline. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's a fairly unique superhero, a take on superheroes, or on a superhero. The powers are unique. I mean, the powers aren't unique. How she uses them is unique. You know, the paint and everything.
Right. For those who don't know what primer is, in the first story, she discovered that these people made these chemicals, these paint chemicals, and you paint them on yourself, and different colors give you different powers. And so she's learning how to blend the color schemes on her suit, and it gives her different powers. And everybody thinks it's the suit that gives the powers. It's not. It's the paint itself, and if it gets on your skin, it's on your skin. You got it, at least for a temporary period of time.
Right. Well, you have to inhale that, whatever she inhaled, for them to work.
Right.
Yeah. And the only thing this is my only problem with the book, and maybe this is just me. I don't know if you got this from reading it as well. So when they captured Deathstroke, and that shot of him in the plane, and I believe he's going like, "Oh, she's 14, huh?" And he gets that look on his face. And anybody who knows anything about Deathstroke, I think would be kind of creeped out by that. Did you get that, or is that just you know what I'm talking about? Tara, yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that's you reading into something that isn't necessary. I totally get it. People our age, because we know that history, are going to see that in that. but for the audience that knows none of that, they're probably not going to pick that up.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Now,
All right.
Now, when I say that it was necessary, that they could have done a better reaction.
Do you think they purposely put that in there, though? I mean, do you think that was on purpose or just a coincidence?
A little of both.
Okay.
Probably. I think it was done on purpose, but done with just enough slyness that if you're savvy enough to pick up on it, fine. If you're not, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, it wasn't outright. It was very sly and very slick. But yeah, I something just kind of stood out to me.
Yep. Dial H for hero plots. Yeah, in a way, it does have a Dial H for hero sensibility too from the 70s and 80s. Yep. Joey's not wrong. Okay, let's take a quick look at some of that art. This is the stuff by Nicoletta Baldari. And again, it's very painterly, kids book type art.
Yeah.
Imperative.
It's bright, it's bouncy, it's just fantastic artwork.
And this isn't Deathstroke she's fighting. She's fighting Ravager. But it's quite weird that Ravager has all these new abilities too, because like it's a different Ravager than the one we're used to in the comics.
Right.
But it was interesting. Whoops, there's something missing. All right, there was another page missing that's not in here, where Robin starts chewing her out because of this whole mess with the crashed vehicles and stuff like that. What are you doing? You're screwing this all up, type thing. And she's like, "Oh no, I've got this." And she sprays something else on her, and she's like, "Duplicate lass," and she makes like a bunch of cheerleaders of herself, and that was a really funny scene.
Yeah,
but it also showed that she did not get it at the same time. So okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is SPAKOW #1. We're going to talk about it's not just one. We're going to talk about all 3 issues. The first issue is 12, and 2 and 3 are 15. Publisher is Bowtie Press. Creator editor Jamie Jones. It's an anthology pulp action magazine. The first issue is 36 pages. The next 2 are like 44 and 48 pages respectively. Age range is 10 to 12 and up. The first one was released in spring of 2024. The third issue is just about to come out. We just got a preview of it. And we were talking about this last Tuesday with Jamie. But basically what it was about was Jamie got burned out doing projects for other clients, as is wont to happen for many of us comics creators. He wanted to try and find a way to get back to the love and the craftsmanship and the fun of making comics. And this is what he came up with, an anthology featuring a variety of his own properties, including his popular Baboon daily comic strip, Lorenzo Cult, and Wizard Cowboy. There are other content as well. And there's also a couple of well thought out commentary articles, one about nostalgia and how it both hurts and helps our industry. And what I thought of the first one was I love the cover. The character was well designed for Wizard Cowboy, and it draws you right into the cover. I do wish his hat didn't cover up the logo. I'll go back and show you what I mean. I wish the hat, but it's okay. We talked about that on Tuesday.
Yeah, and Jamie said the same thing. So
yeah, it's not like it's a deal breaker. This is the new. This was the cover to issue 2. Chris mentioned and talked about this one. He loved this cover and this character, the piston bottle rocket, and how it reminded him of Astro Boy, if I remember correctly. What you were saying,
yes,
is that correct?
Yes.
So you can go to Bowtie Press Substack and get all these stuff, as well as a printed comics for like $5 instead of $12 cover price. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie. I don't think he corrected me on Tuesday, so I think that was correct. It's just introducing you to all these characters, and it's been ages since I discussed the Baboon until last Tuesday. But if you're a fan of the Shadow or early Kirby era Captain America, or you like 30s to 50s westerns, or you like the Spirit, you're gonna like the Baboon. Lorenzo Cult was new to me, but it had a John Constantine Dylan Dog vibe going, but a little bit lighter in tone. The articles were great. Every one of the issues is really strong. I would go with, again, I'd go back to last Tuesday, the March 4th episode, for a really extended conversation with Jamie to get all the real information on this. But we really we can't recommend it more highly. This is one of the best books on there in crowdfunding right now. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because there were some typos and other minor glitches that happened in production that I just have to, as an editor, take note of. But other than that, it's a great series, and Chris and John both gave it 5. Gentlemen, do you have anything else to add on those?
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Okay. And I've read all of issue 1 and halfway through issue 2, so I still got some reading to do. But I really enjoyed it. I thought especially the baboon segments were very well staged. And of course then I found out that he actually had a theater background. It's like, I can see that.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And we talked about how Jamie's artwork has that animation, that old style animation, like bounce and squish to it, and everything just has movement and life to it, which is sorely lacking in a lot of modern comics, as far as I'm concerned. I just cannot recommend this comic highly enough. Absolutely go out and get it. And this is available on his Substack. You can also find him on Facebook. So he's all around. He's out there. So.
And this is one of his like little mini comic strips that he was doing. He's sitting at the convention, and someone comes up to him and goes, "Hey, and what is it you sell?" "Comics." "Oh." And he walks, and the guy just turns around, sticks his nose in there, and walks away. Because that's what happens when we go to comic book conventions. Oh, you're not selling posters, you're not selling action figures, you're not selling toys, you're not selling cosplay pictures of slutty tramp hoes. But anyway, well, John, you've been there. You've been with me at the tables at the show. You know what they do. It's like, do you have any drawings of Kitty Pryde in a bubble bath with Lockheed?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what?
You could almost name a character Slut Tramp Ho.
Yeah. And this is the Cowboy Wizard art. Wizard Cowboy, rather.
Yeah, this is just gorgeous stuff.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm going to have Jamie on probably next month again for a live draw, so we can just have fun,
Yeah. And was it Jamie's brother, right, who said this is the best, quote unquote, the best idea you've ever had?
Yes, and I agree. I do think it's his best work. That's not to say that I didn't like the baboon, but the baboon for me is a little bit too clearly reminiscent of other people's stuff, whereas this feels like something. I mean, yes, there's stuff here you can kind of tell. Okay, he's got a little bit from Wizards from Bashki in this, a little bit.
Exactly, yeah,
little bit, but this feels like this is really all him more so than the other stuff, where I can see the stuff that's really clearly Milton Caniff, Wally Wood, Will Eisner,
and I veer towards fantasy anyway, so
yeah. And then here's the Baboon Dailies, and here's where Chris is talking about the stretching and the squishing and of the figures, and the level of movement and motion in the figures that is lacking in traditional modern comics now.
Yeah, And it's not
Like-
laden with over rendered backgrounds either, when not
Well,
necessary.
right. Well, no, like this fight scene between the baboon and the ninja.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just okay. If this was done as a regular Jim Lee style comic, the first panel here would be like a 2-page splash. The second panel would be like half a splash, and then and then the final panel might be like the bottom third of the second page.
right.
It's like, and every little detail of the crease of the ninja's folds would be drawn, and
Exactly. Yeah,
and
tons of unnecessary detail.
yeah, and it's like it's just it would be so you wouldn't get this sense of real action in tight speed, because when you look at panel to panel, this is actually happening. Even though it's stop frame motion, it's if you were to like play each one of those panels back to back to back like an animation, it would be going lickety split speed.
Yeah, and
Whereas-
go ahead. Sorry. I was
No,
going to say the joke here is the commissioner there. He's saying, "What are you talking about? There's nobody here. There's nobody listening to us. How could there be anybody listening to us?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, check this out." Boom! Kicks the desk and out jumps a ninja.
Mhm. Yeah, it was cool. Okay, that pretty much resolves our stuff for the reviews tonight. But let's talk about the day today. For those who don't know, well, it is my birthday. It's also Will Eisner's birthday, and so we want to that's one of the reasons why I brought back the Kapow stuff, even though we talked about it on Tuesday with Jamie, because he's so influenced by that stuff. And I want to remind everybody and give a toast to his memory.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the other thing was being my birthday, there's certain years of my life where comics had an interesting effect on my birthday. One of those years was 1988. I turned 16 that year. And what happened to come out that week was quite interesting. It was the first release of Batman the Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Boland. And it was also the release of the first Excalibur graphic novel by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis. So I got those two for my birthday. And then I got something else I didn't mention off camera. I got a book called Solo Ex Mutants, #1.
Hey, Lewis, are you aware your camera's off?
No, I wasn't. Thank you.
Okay. I was like, I don't know if he's doing that on purpose or sorry.
No. Thank you. Thank you for no. My camera was doing glitchy things, and that's why it was off. But okay. As long as you could hear me, though.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The Solo Ex Mutants was being produced by Eternity Comics back then, and one of Chris's good friends and our good friend David Campiti was involved with that story. I believe he was the writer. If he wasn't the writer, he was the editor. And it had some early Ron Lim art inside, but it was the cover that got my attention. I'm going to see if I can find that real quick. Oh, come on.
Thank you, Joey.
What was what did Joey say?
He just said happy being born day, Lewis.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me see. I'm trying to find the right cover, and it's not there. Of course, when I want to show something, it's never there when I want to show it. Let's see. I should have grabbed that. There it is. I think you can understand why a 16-year-old boy would take notice of this cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So,
And your mother let you have that, eh?
I don't think she realized I bought it.
Okay, because I'm like, man, my mother, and would be like, nope. Here, look at this bunny rabbit.
Yeah. So that was, but part of it was also, you know, I mean, if I think she looked at it as if I'm letting them buy a book where Joker shoots Batgirl and she's paralyzed, he can look at a woman who's not really naked but is suggestively covered.
Right.
You know, I think that's my mother's common sense too, you know, at that time.
Yeah, which is a good way to look at it.
So, but those were the 3 books I got. And I also got the classic Art Adams Linda Medley X-Men poster on that year. Is there any like birthday comics that you guys remember getting?
Not for me. I mean, I know you've given me comics as gifts before, but I can't remember.
If it was for your birthday or for Christmas.
Right.
The one that stands out to me, and this is kind of comical, but was, and I believe it was. I know it. I don't remember exactly if it was on my birthday or shortly after, but it was a What If comic. It was a Marvel What If comic, and it was Rob Liefeld. What if Wolverine was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Regardless of what you think of Liefeld, that is a classic. That's a classic book. Like, and I remember with the sketch pad, you know, trying to like emulate. I didn't even know who Rob Liefeld was at the time, but I remember trying to like copy it and emulate what he was doing, and thought, "Oh, this is so cool! I'm going to be a comic artist."
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And there was feet.
But you know, when he first started drawing comics, he could draw feet.
Yes, absolutely.
It wasn't that he couldn't. We just, I don't know if he was just like copying a lot of George Perez panels, but he still knew how to draw feet.
Right.
And, you know, here it is, you know, like 35, 40 years later. And if you look at the current stuff, he's actually drawing feet again. So,
yes,
you know, there was just a period of time where he was like, I'm just, you know, footloose.
That's funny.
So yeah, he's like, now, just think about that. Now you got to have Deadpool out there dancing the Footloose, doing the whole scene.
That would be funny. I would love to see that
in the background.
Pardon?
Kenny Loggins in the background.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, just the whole movie, where they did the whole video, where they cut it from the movie scenes where he was like doing the weird exercises in the feed plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just do that with Deadpool with a lot of silliness thrown in.
That would be, and don't show any feet.
Right. Never show the feet.
That would be fantastic.
Yep. And he never lands on his feet because he has no feet. He has to like crash land on his back. roll
I love
over.
it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. So, and it would be like, well, why does he have no feet? and Wolverine at the end of the thing just having his feet dangling off the claws.
That would
like
be
little
good.
like little ballerina slippers with blood all over them or something. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan Reynolds. You can have it free. Anyway, but no, that pretty much covers our thing for today. I think I appreciate you guys with the early the birthday serenade, and I appreciate everybody who's come to watch the show and has said hello. And I'm glad Joey likes to say hello and throw in some comments now and again, because it's
Yes.
really, we really appreciate that. We wish more of you would do that.
Comments are much appreciated.
Yes, we would love to hear more from you folks out there. In the meantime, tomorrow, will be not being shared for some reason. Why is it not being shared? Because my computer's being a I can help with you. But tomorrow is a 60s science fiction double feature. What will we say about these two films, The Human Duplicators and Mutiny in Outer Space? Will we be praising it or mightily slamming the kill switch 3,000 times to end the insanity, otherwise known as MST3Xing it? Tune in to watch as we review The Human Duplicators and Mutiny in Outer Space. And Midnight thought there was just too many copycats. That's his thought of Human Duplicators. As you can see, he was not happy with he was just like, what?
Now he's wondering if you're an android.
Right. That's why I can't get him up unless I push certain things on him. I gotta push the right button. I'll stick my paw in his eye. That'll work. The eye socket always works. Anyway, next week we'll be reviewing Dragon Garage, because we couldn't get to it this week. Epitaphs from the Abyss #7, Green Lantern Dark #3, Jump Scare #1, the Hard Switch graphic novel. And, well, speaking of Deadpool, Chris got this from his lovely wife, brought it home. It's Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. We're going to actually read this and review that mess. And then we found another interesting thing called Digital Disciple, which is another book that our good friend David Campidi is involved in. So we're going to talk about that stuff as well. The stuff that Chris's wife, does she work at the thrift store?
Yes, she does. She works.
Okay.
Yeah, she works at the local thrift store, and they get comics in quite a bit. More than you would think. Yeah, and so
yes, every once in a while she brings some comic books for him to look at and go, look at the stuff I brought.
Right? Yeah.
and you're just like, yeah, this is going to be fun to talk about.
Well, see, this started because she came home one day and she was like, yeah, there was this guy that came in and he bought a bunch of comics from the store. And I'm like, well, what kind of comics were they? And she said, oh, they were like really, really old Superman comics or something like that. I'm like, you're kidding me. Like old, like how old? She said, I don't know. They were really old. I'm like, if you see something like that, bring it home. Because, people all the time don't realize the worth of what they have.
Right. But what is old? To her, she might think 20 years is old. No, we're talking about, anything before 1980, bring it home.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, so there's that. But it's very interesting how we define old versus not old and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very subjective.
But yeah. So anyway, this silly machine's not doing what it's supposed to do, as usual. Let me see what I can do with this. If it's there, it is. All right. In the meantime, if you have questions or suggestions for things, that we can talk about on the show. Reach out to me on Facebook at lewis.brightraven, at the Muskrat channel at lewisbrightrave2, or you can email me at quothravenlbr72@gmail.com or at lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com if the Gmail account doesn't, you don't get a response from me on Gmail. You can also find me on deviantart.com/brightraven. And of course, please do subscribe to this lovely channel on YouTube, Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. And if you want to reach out to John, it is grayfigaro@hotmail.com. And CMYK yourself, Christopher M. Home, 1973@gmail.com. So that's how you reach us. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time with the Raven. Nevermore.
More.
Nevermore.